Good evening. How is everyone? Welcome to Thursday. I, of course, am your happy, humble host, Bill Sylvie, aka the Dungeon Delver, and I hope everyone is having an absolutely wonderful evening this evening. I hope you're doing exceptionally well. I'm going to pop out of a cake with sparklers. That's the 4th of July show. Who knows, right? But anyway, we got us a new bit of kit. Good evening, Lightmane. It's kind of caused things to be a little chaotic around here. I have this nice new, well, it's new to me. Okay, let's just say that. I have this new to me crispy monitor. I'm not sure if I want to keep it here, if I want to move it to the middle, if I want to move it all the way to the right and keep this monitor over here. One thing I definitely got to do is get a better, like, adjustable stand for it, because it's just straight up vertical and it's so bright it kind of hurts my eyes at that angle. RPG Grandma, good evening. Connect, hello. Alan, Robert. So so things are a bit chaotic. So if things look a little different, that's why. I'm also sitting over a little bit because I want to show you guys. These are the first sets of minis for those of you who have ordered the Warduke, the 3 set of Warduke miniatures. That's $25, 3 miniatures. And those of you who have ordered Owlbears, I know a couple of you have ordered both. I'm finishing that up. I didn't really want to go into it. Gene from Inkspot Records, good evening. I didn't want to go into it, but I was having troubles with my 3D printer that I was unable to resolve. And fortunately, I have now resolved those issues. So I had been printing out sets. I have, you can't see them, obviously, they're on a shelf over there, but I have 2/3 complete sets of Owlbears. They need the OD&D Owlbears to go with them. So I've got a set that's printing and I've got a set that's curing right now. So they're almost all done. I hope to have them all done by tomorrow or tomorrow afternoon, at which point, if you have ordered Owlbears or Wardukes or both, you'll get an email from me telling you where you can PayPal me, and you can send me that money. You can pay for those, and I will get them packed up and shipped out to you promptly. So thank you to everyone who bought those. Now, if you're like seeing these for the first time, because we've had a few people join the show, join the madness out there in the chat, who perhaps are a little curious about what it is exactly that I am talking about. Of course, these are the original Chinosaur Owlbear, from whence the Owlbear first sprang. Gary got these in his set of Chinese dinosaurs back in the day. That is one of those. There is a proper AD&D Monster Manual Owlbear, and then the rather curious looking Owlbear from original D&D, and that is a set of 3 of those in proper scale for you to use on your tabletop. And then Warduke, you have Warduke Triumphant, and then 2 different poses of Warduke. So those are all in process right now. And we have filled up the orders on those. But more could come. More could come. I won't say that I'll never offer them again. But more miniatures are coming. It has been an exceptionally busy couple of months, now going into 3 months, but more miniatures are coming. Fear not. If you want some special offered, well, I mean, I suppose other people could offer them too, but something offered by me, sent to you, there's more fun yet to be had. So I'm going to try and adjust this a little bit because there we go. This new monitor is really, it's good, but see, I knocked something over. Uh-oh. Lost my display. There it is. It come back. I'm just trying to adjust this. I did not realize how incredibly bright this is. There we go. So let's do brightness. It's got one of those joy pads instead of buttons. Let's crank that way down. Way down. That needs to be like half. We'll bring the contrast down a little bit too. Let's cool that off. There we go. Yeah, my DM screen fell over. And don't worry, Lightmane, I haven't shunned your book. I just, again, don't know where to put it. It's safe over here, bud. Safe over there. But anyway, so that's what's going on. That's what's happening. And yeah, as soon as I can get a better stand for this, I can lean it forward a little bit. I want to try and get it, the color adjusted and everything as nice as this Lenovo, but it's already yoinks better than the little Gateway monitor, which is like the screen from a cheap laptop. It's terrible. The only thing, and again, I have to adjust it. The only thing that this monitor does, its extant stand is very deep and it's very slick, and it's making my keyboard want to try and slide off, and I don't want it to do that. But anyhow, this monitor was donated to the show by a fellow who played AD&D with us on Monday nights for many, many moons. And he was a great member of our gaming table. Life took him a different direction, a different route. And so consequently, he is no longer with us on Monday nights. So, which is a shame. But he did donate this to the show, and I am greatly, greatly appreciative. You never thought I'd put it on display? This is a Samsung, and I don't know who made the tube in either this monitor or in the now retired Gateway monitor, but the Gateway, just awful. Like it would get a 1-star review. It's not a good monitor at all. So I hope this is not like it's just like an inch higher than the Lenovo display is, and I hope that's not too intrusive to you guys. I hope you don't feel like I'm slowly building like a Bowie-esque man who fell to earth wall of TVs between you and me. But anyhow, so tonight we got some fun. I thought we would take a look at Dragon Magazine number 3, the 3rd issue of Dragon Magazine. And again, I'm not going to do these. Like the next one I do, I could go number 69, or Dragon Magazine 100, or something we could dive in. But I'll end up I'll end up being like Wilson from what was it? It's Earl Heineman was the actor from Home Improvement. You'll just see me from like here up. But you guys already know what I look like, so there won't be any mystery to it. Collecting Chaos, that's a shame. about your Samsung monitor buying the farm that way. And honestly, if I had the money, I would replace these guys with a low profile single curvilinear monitor. But, ifs and buts was candy and nuts. So let's have a gander then. Let's just jump right into it. And we'll have a look-see at Dragon Magazine number 3, and we'll see what's going on in that issue. Now, let's see if I can do this. So we're gonna present. I'm gonna move this over here. I'm gonna put this over here. I'm gonna put you guys over there. I'm gonna put this over here. I'm presuming OBS is behaving itself. So we're going to share screen. 80-20-23, Bill builds the wall. Yes. Insert your favorite Pink Floyd jokes here. And let's jump into Dragon number 3. It's a very purple issue. So this is Dragon number 3 with some sci-fi cover art happening. I love that cover art. I'm not crazy about the purple, but it's okay. But we jump right in to the table of contents. Let's just dive in. And if you guys have any questions, any comments, any super chats, anything like that, just hit me, and I'll do my best to answer them as we go along here. All right. Oh, and I should probably move the. Let's hide that. So right off the bat, first of all, this is from October of 1976. October of 1976. Star Wars would not come out for another November, December, January, February, March, April, May. It was 7 months till Star Wars. My total science fiction uptake at this point was a little bit of Star Trek and just snatches of sci-fi movies and paperbacks that my father would watch or read. Obviously, I was not yet aware of Dungeons and Dragons. I look like a Uriah Heep. Oh, this looks like a Uriah Heep album cover. But here we go. Volume 1, Number 3, October 1976. TSR is proud to present the game of Lankhmar by Fritz Leiber and Harry Fisher. Harry Otto Fisher and Fritz Leiber. The first stories of Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, as written by Fritz Leiber, were recycled stories from when Fritz and Harry would go drinking in Los Angeles post-war in the 1940s. They would stagger up and down Sunset Strip, hitting bar after bar after bar after tavern after saloon, and getting absolutely hammered, and just grab some random piece of wood out of an alley and wave it around like a sword, and generally just act like maniacs. So now you know. But anyway, the game includes huge full-color playing map, over 200 die-cut counters for you to lose, get eaten by the dog, the vacuum cleaner, lost in the carpet, mixed in with the counters for other games, leaving you to play Panzer Blitz again in like 1986 and wonder why, Lankhmar Archers was a unit selected for invading Russia. Complete rules with a history of the game. Well, thank you. That is, so many games come with incomplete rules. No, really, they do. Beautifully illustrated bookshelf-sized box. You got to watch the hyphens, guys. People say, I could eat a huge ass pizza. You know, are you saying a huge ass pizza? $10 postpaid. So we got to check this out now. Let's see. So let's go to the inflation calculator. Let's go to the inflation calculator from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And let's go back to 1976. So Lankhmar was $10. And last month, that is $54.11 for February of 2023. $54.11. Now, let's go down this rabbit hole a little bit. All right. So the median household income in 1976 was $14,960. All right. So that is approximately 0.07% of the median household's income. Okay. The median household income today is $34,987. So that is 0.15%. So the inflation is, or rather the cost of your income to buy that game today. Now, I'm sure a collector would want way more than that. But if Lankhmar came out today at $54, it would cost you 0.15% of your median income if you are making the median income in the United States, which is $34,000. It was cheaper in 1976, and now you know. Actually bringing down your physical copies of Dungeon Mag and Dragon Mag and keeping them in the living room. Good for you, Squirrel Hermit. Light Main, hopefully we can see you. Minimum wage was $2.30 in 1976. Very cool. So there you go. Now you know what Lankhmar would have set you back, but let's go on. It's a game of skill for 2 to 4 adult players. The fantastic world of Naywan is at your fingertips as you command the armies of Kvarch Nar, the Mingles, Lankhmar, or the King of Kings, with Fafard, the Grey Mouser, Pulg, and Movarl as leading heroes. Shilba, Ningobul, and the War Cat and all the rest are there too. Players compete to conquer their opponent's strongholds while gaining rewards accordingly in this chess-like game, which combines the abstract with the tactics of the mythical medieval world of Naywan. Lankhmar was originally conceived by Harry Fisher in 1937 and developed by Fritz Leiber and the author over the years. It has been revised now to include the latest and best concepts of simulation gaming. So for $21 or about 0.15% of your household income for the year, you could get a copy of Lankhmar, a year subscription to the Dragon, and a complete catalog. You have issues 1 to 200 on the shelves in your place. You'll pull down one and read before bed a lot of nights. That's very cool, Will. I should see if I can get a local print shop to do a print on demand of number 1 for me one of these days. So Dragon Rumbles. We've got this exciting game. We can order straight from TSR, but Dragon Rumbles by Tim Kask. Someone once said that all you needed to play fantasy games was a willing suspension of disbelief. This philosophy goes far to succinctly sum up fantasy gaming, but only on the surface. What is most essential is an active imagination. Without one, there can be no fantasy. Webster's New Collegiate Dictionary, 1975 edition, describes fantasy as fancy, the free play of creative imagination, a creation of the imaginative faculty. It defines imagination as the act or power of forming a mental image of something not present to the senses or never before wholly perceived in reality. As is obvious from the above, the two are integrally interconnected. The dictionary goes even further into the fact because it credits imagination, fancy, and fantasy with a shared meaning element, the power to form mental images of things not before one. To ask a bushman of the Kalahari to describe a clipper ship would be folly. Even if you told him how it worked and what its purpose was, he wouldn't be able to describe anything that you would recognize as a clipper ship. He would be able to describe it only in terms of or comparison to things he knew. Even the concept of an ocean would be unbelievable to him. Well, Tim, I don't know that that's true. I don't know if that's true. We should talk, Will, about print on demand there. As the preceding example illustrates, imagination is dependent upon background, at least in terms of visualization. To a 14th century Amerindian, a ship that sailed from the east coast of North America to Europe was just as fantastic as a ship that sailed to the specks of light in the night sky. Everything we perceive is subconsciously compared to what we've seen before. I would not dispute his overall drive, but I would dispute his examples. And the reason is, and I can't remember the specifics of it, but there is actually a science fiction novel that was written during Greek times. Yes. It has all the elements we would describe as science fiction. I'm not just talking about myths, the Greek myths about the Greek gods. Actual science fiction. Traveling to other planets, ships sailing through space, fighting aliens, fighting evil empires in ship-to-ship combat. So I think if you started explaining a rocket ship to someone, or even a large ship, I think they get it. I think they'd get it. That's just me. All of these points have been made in defense of including fiction within the pages of The Dragon. The complaints have not been numerous by any means, but most are marked by their vociferousness and vehemence. All the games we play are fiction. Historical battles are historical fiction at best. I include fiction in The Dragon so that the reader's fictions will be better, fuller, more complete, and better founded. Some of the fantasy campaigns now extant rely entirely upon the work of one author or are centered around only one cycle or mythos. If that suits you, fine. As for myself, I'd rather play in a campaign that blends many cycles, mythos, and authors' work. It seems to have a richer flavor. I agree with that. Subconsciously or consciously, every bit of fantasy, science fantasy, or sword and sorcery you have read contributed to how you perceive and deal with fantasy gaming. Even if you read a concept that you violently dislike, it has affected your perception of gaming. Chances are you will overreact in the opposite direction. The more concepts you explore, regardless of whether you agree with them, accept them, or not, the more raw material you have for your own imagining process. Thank you, Will. That is exactly who I'm talking about. A True Story by Lucian of Samosata, 2nd century. That is what I'm talking about. A science fiction novel back during those ancient times. In response to these letters, fiction will no longer take up nearly as much space. The Nile story and the Dragon took up so much space because of a lack of communication between myself and the typesetter. It was set too large. In the future, though, I will still include what I think is worthwhile fiction. A good proportion of material printed is submitted by the readers, and occasionally I'll print something that might not be top-flight writing, but contains worthwhile concepts. As an aside note, I will be printing a new Gardner Fox Nile story in The Dragon number 6, Beyond the Wizard Fog. Unless Fog is a wizard's name, and then I would put the emphasis differently. Beyond the Wizard Fog. It's subtle, but, you know. Presumably you're talking about Dave Sutherland there, Mike Wilson. Yeah, we'd love to see some Dave Sutherland. You can see in the new format in this issue that I will use for fiction. You can see the new format in this issue that I will use for fiction. I promise, English is my first language, guys. I feel that The Dragon should and will be more than a variant magazine, as it is meant to deal with all aspects of fantasy, swords and sorcery, and science fiction gaming. If a reader adopts just one idea, gimmick, concept, etc. from a story, or adopts a measure in opposition to one, then it will have served the purpose of furthering fantasy gaming. Tim Kask. Oh, no worries, Mike. I find myself doing it sometimes. Okay, so in this issue, War of the Empires, PMB space game, Women in Magic, Ladies in D&D, Search for the Gnome Cache, that is more of Gary's fiction, Birth Tables for D&D, Wargaming World, Mapping the Dungeons, Out on a Limb, Plethora of Obscure Subclasses. Ooh, we'll test Jack Photon's knowledge there. A New View of Dwarves, 2 penultimate subclasses, Strategist Award for 75. Editor, Timothy J. Kask. Staff artist, Dave Sutherland. Circulation, Neil Topolnicki. Cover by Seaton and Jancy. Does anyone remember War of the Empires? And this is by Gary. So let's read it. Let's give it the attention it needs. Yeah, I don't know how much we're going to read that, Will. I don't want to get I don't want to get canceled. Possibly the earliest science fiction war game was a postal offering from Tullio Proni. The original version came out, I believe, in 1966, although the copy of the rules bears no date. Both of these early versions of War of the Empires were reproduced by the Ditto process, although the revised version was a considerable improvement of the original. Both were a far cry from the standards demanded of amateur-produced games marketed today. The game itself was based on the concept of a universe-wide power struggle between two socially hostile groups. On the one hand was the greatest empire, a monarchy aristocracy with dreams of binding every habitable planet to the throne. Opposed to this colonialist empire was the League of All Worlds, basically a confederation of planet systems and multi-system governmental forms wishing to resist the expansion of the empire. Maybe that would make a good movie. Nah. War of the Empires then assumed that Terrans were being enlisted as commanders, for they represented a race which could boast some of the deadliest fighters in the universe, according to the War Report, Volume 1, Number 1, February 7th, 1967. Proni's game was aimed primarily at postal play, although I assume he and his associates engaged in face-to-face contests also. The designer served as the master computer. Those that joined the campaign opted to come in on one side or the other, and each greatest empire commander was matched with a commander of the League of All Worlds by the master computer. Master computor. Prony furnished each a set of rules for their initial contest, and each also received a duplicate copy of a sector map. The latter showed the starting positions of the spaceships and the solar locations of solar systems in the sector. The two antagonists had to use a random number system to decide who was to start at the X or Y positions, while the player was getting the second position choice moved first. The opponents then strove to move it to the most desirable solar systems. Desirability was stated in two ways. Each system was given a build number, the number indicating how many new ships could be constructed in that system each term. Additionally, the systems were all given monetary values. Sounds like Space Catan, doesn't it? I'm asking. I've never played Catan. It looks crashingly boring. Let's see. The systems were given monetary values, a number of credits the system was worth to the player, retaining it at the end of the match. Play was, in most cases, conducted postally. At first, the players had only scout ships to claim systems with or attack the antagonists with. So there's combat. It's not like Catan. Oh, I lost 3 viewers. I shouldn't have said I don't like Catan. Let's see. As systems were claimed, the opponents were then able to construct other sorts of ships: torpedoes, cruisers, battleships, and fortresses for system defense, non-mobile, in addition to further scout vessels. The different types of ships moved at differing rates and had progressively stronger attack and defense modes. Except for the torpedo, ships could hyperspace, move 3 times normal movement, but only in a straight line. Torpedoes moved only normally, but their speed was much greater than other ships. When the contest was decided in favor of one of the other players, each noted their total losses in ships and fortresses and balanced against their credits gains for claims of new systems. The whole was then sent to the master computer for recording. The winning player was moved up a rank. Assuming that both players wished to engage in another game, each was then assigned a new opponent from the opposing side. The new opponent having a record for as nearly similar to the player as possible. News of concluded games, player lists side by side, rules comments, sci-fi book reviews, and similar materials published in the War Report, the game newsletter, also done by Prony, which began publication about the time the second edition of the rules was released. Does anyone know about this? This sounds fascinating. It ended almost as quickly as it began, although only 2 issues being published, February and April 1967, although Prony stated in the second issue that there were 30 postal players engaged in War of the Empires, something caused him to drop the entire product. No offense, Gary, maybe he got drafted. 1967, probably a younger guy. Maybe he got called up. Now, that's why I say I have the smartest audience. Collecting Chaos, I'm going to put that on the screen. That's worth lots of people seeing. The first science fiction game would have to be Buck Rogers, 1934. The first original science fiction game would be Interplanetary from 1943. Let's see. When his mastering of the campaign went to the board, the whole project ground to a halt. No response from repeated letters indicated that Prony was quite serious in his evident intent of dropping the game. After repeated attempts to get the author to revive the game, I gave up. Oh, Gary was playing it. And for some 2 years, the whole affair was in limbo. However, in early 1969, I wrote again to Prony and asked if he would be interested in trying War of the Empires once again, or failing that, if he would object to my trying to reestablish. After 6 weeks with no reply, I took the bull by the proverbial horns and went to work on the project. I think we must be missing something there from the scan. That's probably personification of the opposing factions was also included. We're missing a page. We are missing something. That's page 5. The previous one's page 4. I'm not sure what happened. Peterson covered a bit about it in Playing at the World. I got to read that one of these days. It is interesting. Now, we actually tried a PBM. I don't know. This was back when I was in college, and it was silly because, like, we all saw each other. We saw each other like 3, 4, 5 times a week sometimes. So us doing a play-by-mail game was a bit of a head scratcher. And after not sending out a letter for like a week at one of the games, I told the game master, I said, "I'm so sorry. Can I just hand you the letter?" And he said, "Dude, nobody else has done any turns either. I mean, sure, you can give it." So I handed him the letter that I'd been intending to mail, and I, again, profusely apologized. And it never came up again. I presume nobody ever did anything with it again. And so Gary just goes on to talk about playing War of the Empires. And just to sum up, because I don't want to slog through the whole thing, War of the Empires was an interesting game creation in many ways, and although the individual games were sometimes not much, the whole had great potential, for it offered continuing involvement in a science fiction campaign where players could play many postal games, become involved in authoring material for the newsletter, cover or read almost anything connected with the whole genre, and so forth. If the newsletter could have been maintained regularly, the campaign would probably be alive today, for the whole concept is basically as interesting now as it was then. Who knows? Perhaps one of these days we will see the hobby's oldest sci-fi game rise once again, more from the ashes like a phoenix. Then once again, Sub-Commander Gygax will sally forth from planet Arkham, which circles Anka 2, taking the dreaded Curse of Yig to battle in behalf of the League. Now, this is interesting. Evermist. We love reading the ads. Evermist is an illustrated quarterly presenting adult fantasy, weird fantasy, sword and sorcery. We feature a balanced selection of fiction, poetry, articles, and book reviews with emphasis on creativity and craftsmanship. We have published regularly since 1974. Subscription is $2 per year. P.O. Box 27, LaBelle, Florida, 33935. Any of you guys ever read Evermist? Let me know. Anthony 76, Star Mist. Oh Lord, look at them arms. I'm presuming that he has his arms tucked behind him and those aren't his arms hanging down there. Starweb is a multiplayer hidden movement play-by-mail strategic space game. You capture planets, build space fleets, collect ancient artifacts, negotiate with other players, and attempt to build a space empire. There's 225 star systems in the game, and you start with knowledge of only one. You don't even know how many other players there are in the game until you meet them. Once every 2 weeks, you mail your instructions for the turn to us. We run the turns through our computer and mail you a printout describing what happened to your empire that turn. We have been running play-by-mail games since 1970 and currently have well over 800 opponents around the world. For a copy of the rules and more details, send $1. If you would like to join a game right away, send us 10. 3 is a setup fee, 2 is a deposit, which is refunded at the end of the game, and 5 is for the first 5 turns. The game fee is $1 per turn. That's only $2 a month. And that's Flying Buffalo Games out of Scottsdale. Flying Tunnels and Trolls Buffalo Games. Flying Ken St. Andre Buffalo Games. Now, they said they had a computer. I wonder what kind of computer it was. This is 1976. They're in Scottsdale, Arizona. I am going to assume that their computer is an Altair, possibly an IMSI, or some Z80 clone thereof, or perhaps 8080. Okay, I am about to preface this article that I'm about to read. I ain't taking a stance on anything. I'm not going to read the whole article. This is notes on women in Magic, bringing the distaff gamer into D&D. There will be 4 major groups in which women may enter. They may be fighters, magic users, thieves, and clerics. They may progress to the level of men in the area of magic, and in some ways surpass men as thieves. Elven women may rise to especially high levels, and clerics to the elves. Only as fighters are women clearly... Oh, boy. Strength is an 18-sided die and 1 6-sided die. I mean... Okay. RPG Grandma loves this article. Is it the play-by-mail article, or is it the Women in D&D article? So basically, it's basically what Len Lakofka was proposing here. That I don't think it's referring to women gamers. Not that that makes it too much better. And it is part of the time period. Timex Sinclair computer, not back then. Mike, a Timex Sinclair would have blown their minds. Like if you had taken a Timex Sinclair from like 1981 and given it to people at night, that would be like giving my 4th gen i7 with its GTX 760, 16 gigs of RAM, and all solid state storage to someone in the year 1995. I think Len was trying to be helpful too. So strength is an 18-sided die and a 6-sided die. So this means that a woman could potentially have a strength of 24. That's not bad. Intelligence, same as magic user. Strength for fighters. The prime requisites: wisdom for clerics, intelligence for magic users, strength for fighters, dexterity for thieves. Intelligence is important to upper level thieves when magic is used. Beauty and exceptional beauty, 15 to 18, 19 to 20, are important to thieves, fighters, and magic users. Clerics may not use this if they are lawful or neutral. Chaotic clerics may use their beauty score. And it just kind of goes on, and you've got different level titles. Now, I have waxed poetic about how much I love the witch class. It's kind of introduced here-ish. But it's the first Hubba Hubba rules based on but fighters, instead of fighting men, you have fighting women: swordswoman, gladiator, battle maiden, shield maiden, myrmidon, heroine, Valkyrie, war lady, 10th level. Clerics, much the same until we get to sister, deaconess, canoness, prioress, superioress, matriarch of different levels. Thieves, look, Len Lakofka wrote this, don't at me. Wench, hag, jade, succubus, adventuress, soothsayer, gypsy, or sibyl. Again, I didn't come up with that. Magic users, that's where we get into the witch, not as class, but as level titles. Medium, seer, sage, mystic, oracle, enchantress, illusionist, sorceress, witch, and then witch up to 22nd level. And then fighting capability of fighting women, spells for clerics, which are pretty much the same. But you get a little bit extra. You get a little bit better. Thieves can tarot read. That's right. Thieves can tarot read. The tarot, 78 cards, may be asked a simple yes-no question only. More complex divinings are beyond the highest level of the thief given here. If you wish to have higher-level thieves, you might also consider complex cross and staff readings also. Yes-no questions must be precise and exact. They must relate to the immediate future, one day at most, of the present. Every question must be answerable by yes or no. There will be no embellishment. Sybil level 9 and beyond can tell something from the 3 cards used in answering the yes-no questions, but Sybil level 8 below cannot. The card replies will be yes, probably no, and no. The judge will cast a 12-sided die. He must weigh the answer correctly. Let's see. Must weigh the answer correctly. Choices number 1 to 6, 7 to 10 must be assigned to the remaining affirmative, negative, and 11 to 12 to the probably opposite. Maybe this, possibly, perhaps, is the beginning of the moral panic about D&D, where it really starts to grow a kind of a life of its own. It does look like something from Fritz the Cat, doesn't it, Will? That is an illustration by Jacques. And it does look like something from Fritz the Cat. But I wonder if parents saw kids playing this. This is an extremely edge case. I would say the number of people who probably gamed like that and just said, hey, Tammy, do you want your character, female fighter, to be this way? No. All right. And you just ignored it and went on. Looking at the strength, you wonder if that's a typo error. 18 maybe was supposed to be 1 8-sided and 1 6-sided. Possibly. It also could be a scanning error. Still, you like the idea that Maddie across the table there is rocking a 24 strength. What can she do? What can't she do? I punched the storm giant in the knee. It goes down. And yes, they do include a seduction spell for magic users. This spell may be used on living humanoid, unharmed males only by women with a proper beauty score. Because only women can seduce, apparently. And then there's saving throws, and then a somewhat naughty picture there. And then they can charm men, poison, horrid beauty may be cast by witches, mind meld, magic mount. That's just a wind horse, guys. A nice ad for heritage. Presumably we have a Balrog there. And again, as I pointed out, that pole arm or whatever that this guy has, you could use as a measuring tool. All right, how far are they? They're about 2 of Jeff's footmen, 2 of his lands necked there. Search for the Gnome cast by Garrison Ernst. Of course, this is, Gary Yes, Orbital. We are talking about 1976 here. But this is chapter 3 of the Gnome Cache. Gary's uncompleted novella. Oh, and there's multiple chapters. Another ad for minifigs. Attention, fantasy and medieval wargamers. Have we got a range for you? Norman and Saxon 25mm range, a.k.a. Men-at-Arms. Personalities: King Harold on the foot, William the Conqueror mounted. In stock, armies of the Macedonian and Punic Wars, armies and enemies of Imperial Rome. Illustrated catalog, $2. Everybody charged for a catalog back then. Yeah, the Gnome Cache, like, you don't sympathize with the guy in the Gnome Cache at all. That's probably why I haven't gone back and finished it. Well, I mean, finished reading it. But if Gary had some grand redemption arc for the guy, he never told us. Oh, that's cool, collecting chaos. Hey, Danny H., good to see you. And that is more of it. Birth tables for D&D. So you can throw a social class in here. And this popped up again. Gary kind of subsumed this into Unearthed Arcana. But you can have social class. 1 to 30-year commoner, 31 to 85-year merchant, 86 to 95 a gentleman or gentlewoman, 96 to 100 noble. Sibling rank, where are you? Are you the firstborn, the secondborn, third or fourth, or are you a bastard child? On a roll of 1 on a 6-sided die, a player is orphaned. First son receives inheritance. No one receives allowance. First son receives 10% more initial allowance. Bastard receives 10% less. Lightmane says, I just checked on eBay for this issue. Someone is asking $4,500 for the first six issues. Number 1, no, I don't want to say number 1 is worth that. I personally think that the absolutely absurd, like borderline wacko prices that any old D&D is going for these days is just that. It's wacko. Like, I remember when I remember seeing somebody selling like the first 3 issues of The Dragon and all the strategic reviews, and they wanted $350 for it. And I was like, woof. That was decades ago. That's a good price, Mike. But let's see. If you're a commoner, there are sub-ranks. You know what? Let's do this. Let's roll this up. Okay, so we have our character, Bob the Fighter. Bob the Fighter, because we can do that. This is my channel, and I can do whatever I want. A 50. Bob's of the merchant class. What rank is he? Oh, Bob's a bastard. Bob's dad went stepping out. Let's see. Is he orphaned? Is Bob orphaned? Yes, he is. I rolled a 1. Bob's an orphan. No allowance. Okay, so he's a merchant. He is of a merchant. I actually kind of like this system. Ryan says, I would much rather have the fertile 2E run issues. Yeah, not me. Not me. So 98. From a wealthy merchant family. So his initial gold there is 200. And let's see. Oh, so 10% less, so 180. And presumably 10% less on his inheritance. So 180 and 360. That's 36. Okay. And he has skill C. One from each group. This is very Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Is anyone else getting a Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay vibe from this? I am. By the way, if you're just stopping by and you haven't already, please click the subscribe button and the bell icon for notifications. So one from each group. 1, 2, 3, and crafts, presumably. All right, group 1. 30. 30, 30, 30. Of course, it's where I can't see it. Group 1, 30. Farmer or serf. He's a very well-heeled farmer or serf. Oh, forgot to roll father's occupation before mom died and dad stepped out for milk and never came back. Dad was a commoner. All right. So group 1, I rolled a 30. So he's a farmer or a serf. Group 2, next skill set. $71. Yikes. I'm not liking that. I'm going to re-roll that. I don't like that. Independent craftsman. Group 3. 86. Astrologer. And what independent craftsman is he? Well, we roll a d12 to find out. 6. Weaver. So there we go. And he's not nobility, so we can ignore all of that. Because Dad was a peasant. Adventurers. Oh, man, you could start right out of the chute here. So merchant. First level. First level fighter. And 2d6 for his starting race. 11, a human, just human. And I get 3 dice down the line. Wow, look at that. So if you start out as an elf for like wisdom, you get 4d6 for wisdom dexterity, and charisma. This is a depth of character creation here for D&D, just leaps and bounds ahead of what you were doing just with simple original D&D rules. This is really, 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 really textured here. I mean, if let me ask you, has anyone out there ever used this before? And what was your feedback? How did that work? Now, here's a little bit of information. This is important because this little article over here to the right. Advance notice, Metro Detroit gamers proudly present WinterCon 5 Game Fest, continuing the largest amateur convention in the Midwest, Detroit's 9th major con, with special guests Gary Gygax, Brian Bloom, and Rob Kuntz of TSR Hobbies. Rob wasn't much more than a teenager at the time, I think. I apologize if that's not correct. Presenting a 100-man D&D, a Boot Hill and a Lankmar tournament, plus a question and answer D&D seminar. Admission all 3 days, $4. Oakland University or Rochester, Michigan. WinterCon 5 of 1976 would have been where Lost Caverns of Sojkonth was played. The 100-man D&D tournament or 100-player D&D tournament would have been the separate tables all playing LCOT. Lodging, $6 per night per person with double occupancy. I'm guessing that was probably in a dorm. Tournaments and events, 7 multiplayer board games, 3 2-player board games, 7 role-playing games, 4 adult games, 10 miniatures games, plus many more. Lot of spontaneous events. Featuring Dungeons & Dragons, 100-Man and Others, Empire of the Petal Throne, Boot Hill, Lankmar, Kingmaker, and Gladiators. Russian Civil War, World War II, Quadra Games, Monopoly and Risk, 1x285 Micro Armor, World War II Naval Minis, Diplomacy and War at Sea, Africa Corps and Richthofen's War, CLS Napoleonics and JEB Civil War, Knights of the Round Table, Tolkien Fantasy, and Stargard. Now, first of all, I just want to say Lucy Lawless is a very, very fit woman. She was at the time of filming Xena. I'm not denying her prowess at all. Hitting people and sending them flying was more often than not the actions of a cable and a pulley, just like anybody else hitting anyone else. But then you know that. The Adventures of Phineas Fingers and Fred and Charlie, or How Not to Listen at Doorways. This is Phineas Fingers right here. Aha! Grunts. And footsteps. Yes. I think. Yes. A door being opened somewhere. Yes. Nab. And now I hear a door slamming and some screams and hacking and a definite struggle. Good. Now it's quiet again. Wait. I hear that door opening. Tap, tap. I think it's going to clear now. Or I think it's clear now. I'm going to check it out. You two guys stand right here. Nab. Gulp. Hey, Phineas. Shut up. I'm busy. But Phineas. Listen, how am I supposed to pick this lock with you guys bugging me all the time? Oops, excuse me. Fred? Charlie? To be continued. She is a lovely, multi-talented person. Der Kriegspielers, and now we get into some fantasy figures. Presumably... New Chivalry, Coming soon. These actually look like very nice figures, the ones in armor do. Napoleonettes, 15 millimeter Napoleonics, Thermopolites, 25 millimeter, Ancient Greeks and Persians. From Custom Cast, Independence Square, 57 South Main Street, Dayton, Ohio. Wargaming World. The past couple of months have seen some truly fabulous figures released, much to the delight of fantasy figure collectors everywhere. The biggest contribution has to be from Archive Miniatures in California. Like the Phoenix of Legend, Archive has risen from the ashes of its first failure. If that is the correct word, the events surrounding this are not of interest here, but the figures certainly are worthy of notice. As this is written, more samples are en route, but only those already received will be noted. All of the figures show remarkable detail, perhaps too much in a couple of cases if you're a bit prudish. But Virginia, even monsters have genitals. There's a very nice Windblown Magic User, patterned after the 76 Tolkien calendar Gandalf. The Fellowship set is very Renaissance in flavor, which is a pleasant respite from the Northern European mold that so many producers have fallen into. Their Minotaur and Satyr figures are beautiful, but the novelty award must go for the Barbarian Duck figure. Readers of the Marvel Comics will recognize him as Howard the Duck or Melvin in his present incarnation. It's not every day that a party will run into a duck armed with a sword and wearing a horned helmet. My only regret regarding these figures is the rather steep price, but I guess you have to pay for a premium for premium figures. Probably cost $1 a piece. Ral Partha has released some beautiful figures showing the same quality that has become their selling point. They now have an unmounted Death Dealer that is very nice, and 2 new Magic User Cleric types on round bases with scattered paraphernalia at their feet that are mini dioramas themselves. 2 of their more interesting figures are their Valar, tall, stately, exotic, and somewhat surreal. Their Norman and Haradrim cavalry figures are among the best cavalry available. The only thing that Ral Partha can be faulted for is the seemingly poor care they take of their molds. The very newest stuff is always intricately detailed and crystal sharp. All too often, subsequent castings start losing that clarity as more and more are made. Custom Cast has introduced a new line of chivalry figures centered in the Arthurian legend, which clearly classifies them as fantasy, although the majority of them would grace any medieval army. Once again, they are beautifully detailed and offer some interesting pieces. They seem to be utilizing a new means of detailing instead of raised sculpture. They are using tiny pinpricks to affect the detail. While this can substantially increase the intricacy of detail, it makes for tough painting. Be advised to use as thin a paint as possible. Too thick a coat will obscure most of it. So it almost sounds like those minis were carved. Dragontooth miniature. I remember seeing Dragontooth on sale when I was a kid. How about you guys? Grenadier miniatures will probably sound new to the majority who read this. They make some of the very finest figures available, but have an absolutely wretched distribution system, making them impossible to get in many areas. Hopefully this will change very soon. In the meantime, harass your local dealer to carry them. They have a complete fantasy sword and sorcery line of figures. Much to their credit, most of their figures are purely original, looking like no picture, comic book, or dust jacket you've ever seen. They have taken the booming accessory line one step further in that they produce sets of treasures, artifacts, and paraphernalia. They have a torture chamber set complete with the Iron Maiden and grinning torturers, red-hot tongs in hand. The Wizard's Chamber set has grimoires, scrolls, flasks, decanters, and skulls, the whole bag, plus a workbench, bookshelf with skull bookends, and a wizard fiendishly at work. Their most striking set is the Necromancer's Chariot, drawn by 2 unicorns, looking as though it was constructed by mad demons. It is an impressive vehicle for the Necromancer, complete with familiar perched on his shoulder, good for at least -4 on enemy morale. So let's map the dungeon. Let's map the dungeon, and then we'll wrap up with mapping the dungeon unless we see something just absolutely great on the next page. But guess what? Mapping the dungeons has gone international. Your dungeons have bled out of the Midwest, the university towns upon the coasts, the comic and hobby shops in the South, and they've spread. So now we've got Canada. We got some folks in Canada. Larry and Lyle Fitzgerald up there in Canada. Susan King. So just thumb my nose at the need to give women short shrift on the tabletop. Keith Murphy, 24 Pinders Crescent. Good luck. Just there it is. No zip codes. Oh, all Saskatoon. Okay, sorry. England, Cambridge University Wargaming Society, care of Graham Buchel. Various D&D, EPT, Dungeon Masters. EPT, Joanne Berger of Lake Jackson, Texas. Or Joan. Joanne or Joan? I'll leave it up to you guys. We have Paul Carlton, Peter Serrato, Chip Charnley, Brendan Dwyer, Mark Eckenweiler, C. Eichelberger, Alan Hammock, the Dragon Masters, Scott Johnson, Captain R.W. Knisley, HQU Safe, Andrew Mueller, Mark Norton, Daniel Schubert, Clint Schufer, Patrick Seymour, Mark Swanson, The Warehouse Alliance out in Santa Ana. We have an ad for the Dungeon Shop. The Dungeon Hobby Shop, rather. The Midwest's newest and most complete war game shop at Fantasy Crossroads of the world. I'll see it, or at least what's used to be it, next week. Let's see. And there are, this is the letters section. A letters section. Don't worry, we will read some of this. Judges Guild. That scan did not go well. No idea what that is. You can just read the text. Visit the Plaza of Profuse Pleasures, the College of Ancient Secrets, but beware the Thieves Guild on Cut Purse Row. Have no idea what that's supposed to be a picture of. Yes, Ryan, I am going to Gary Con. I will be there. Oh, what's this off to the right? Healers. A plethora of obscure subclasses. Jack, fire up your pen. We have healers. Scribes. I think these are actually in the books that Jack put together. Now available from TSR, miniature wargame rules for Dungeons and Dragons. Swords and spells, $5. Samurai. And A New View of Dwarves by Larry Smith. But we're going to dive into all of that. You know what? Let's read some letters. We did 24 people watching. You guys want to see what the letter writer to Dragon Magazine was saying at the time and kind of get my hot take on it? Would you guys like that? I'll do it. I don't hear anyone stopping me. You'll have to super chat me to stop me. Wait. No, damn it. All right. So here we go. This is Out on a Limb. Dear sirs, I have been a student of military history for the past several years when I discovered TSR Hobbies. After ordering the dungeon game out of a magazine, I got the TSR catalog and found the world of wargaming. The biggest problem I have at the moment is that I don't know any other wargamers in this area to get with. I subscribed to your magazine, The Dragon, and sat down to write you about your first, or rather my first issue. You wrote in the front that you wanted letters to Out on a Limb, so I decided to write my impressions as a newcomer. Now let's read this, guys, and see if this differs from any, particularly if you're a younger audience member out there. If you're interested in listening to this part, does this mirror how you came to it, but let's continue. I subscribed to your magazine, The Dragon, and sat down to, okay, all right, we already did that. As a little background, I'm a 31-year-old steel worker. Okay, so that's pretty cool. The guy's a steel worker, right? And he's jumping right into D&D. I mean, you can't come up with something like if he was a steel worker on the weekends and drove a tank for the army during the week, maybe that would be more manly. But this guy is a steel worker, and he's jumping into wargaming. Don't bring me this nerds should be bullied crap. Go find this guy and bully him. Actually, it's 50 years later, so I would imagine he's gotten on in his years and probably still tough as nails. I read sci-fi and fantasy voraciously and have several thousand books. Good for you, my man. I have also been studying military history, especially naval history, and I am presently designing a naval warfare game to submit to TSR staffers for consideration. My brother and a friend and I are presently studying and setting up Star Probe and Alien Space games. We three rather prefer board games at present. On to The Dragon, however, Volume 1, Number 2, August. The article on monkish combat was almost completely over my head. I simply had no background to understand what was going on. Oh, dude, don't feel too bad. Neither did we. We read it. We're up here. We're almost 50 years down the line. We're 47 years up from where you're at, my friend. It was a bit dense to us too. I think if you owned D&D, it probably would have made a tiny bit more sense, but not hugely. On the known cache, it seems strange and slightly stupid. I am sorry, but the writing was so good about a subject so terrible. What we were talking about Cudgel earlier there. Who is that? Talking about Cudgel the Clever. Was that Joshua or was that Will? Will was talking about that earlier. If it was simply a try at humor, I'm surprised at its inclusion in such a class operation as The Dragon seems to be. Ouch. The little-mentioned article on future issues, such as the upcoming Empire of the Petal Throne, was curiously provoking, or was curiosity-provoking. We are thinking of ordering EPT if we can find out a little more about it. The article, Story Search for the Forbidden Chamber, was dull. Again, the writing was excellent, the subject matter inane. Why let such an obviously talented writer write a scenario on one of the actual games, such as the description in the back of the rulebook of the dungeon game, not D&D? It was interesting as well as informative. The artwork is good. I enjoyed it. Please explain what is the section marked Mapping the Dungeon with all the names and addresses. The section on D&D judges was interesting, very, but was like coming into the middle of the picture. I believe it would be very exciting to be a judge or referee in one of these war games. I intend to get deeper into this phase of the game. Shadow of a Demon by Fox was good, as was the artwork. The article Feathered Serpent by Lynn Harpold was excellent. The following quote, Mesoamerican Sun Kingdoms, deserves a game all by itself. Hope to hear more from this artist in future issues. Whoops. Don't stop your advertisements. They are fascinating to a newcomer like myself, even if old timers are bored with it. We love the advertisements, right, guys? The creature feature is fascinating, even if I don't understand it. Wish I knew more about it. D&D. Your press release was the kind of thing I am looking for. Critiques of the various games, some idea what they are about. This is interesting, again, especially to a newcomer. The article on The Alchemist was fascinating, if baffling. Again, Gary, you gotta buy Dungeons and Dragons, my friend. I know you're, well, they don't say where you're at. You're a steel worker. You could be in Alabama. You could be in Pittsburgh. You could possibly be, in Michigan or Ohio. But honestly, I'll write you a letter, buddy. It's Dungeons and Dragons. It's very easy to understand. I think you'll like it. All in all, the whole book was certainly interesting, if different. I would suggest that the upper half of your front page be a symbolic dragon design used in every issue to get the proper identification for the zine. The lower half could contain small art insets of illustrations of interior articles. Gary, you're a war gamer. You're obviously well-read. You are not a cover designer for magazines, my friend. Hey, Sean Hall, good to see you. I like going back and looking at the ads now, man. I really enjoy them. Especially once you get into the 70s and early 80s, there's ads for computer software that I actually like try and find on the web from time to time. It's very difficult because it was obviously, dude in his bedroom with a Commodore PET, a stack of blank floppies, some mimeographs, or perhaps Xeroxes that he got done for 5 cents a piece, and was putting stuff together there. I hope that this has been a good letter for you. I operate a small portion of the national group of science fictioneers called Perry Rhodan Committee. We operate an organization supporting the Perry Rhodan science fiction series. I hope to begin a wargaming group here if I can find enough members. Thank you for your courtesy and keep up a rare and noble endeavor for the fantasy wargamers of America. Very sincerely yours, Gary F. Spiegel. Now, that name sounds familiar to me in gaming fronts, or maybe it's just my brain doing the fake thing. But if you guys if that sounds familiar to somebody, please let me know. We'll do one more and then we'll wrap because we're almost at the 90-minute mark and my throat's wearing out and I want to eat some dinner. So let's see. Yes, a couple of weeks ago, I wrote you asking for permission to Xerox some of your tables. I'd taken them and cut them out, laid them out differently to provide a compact set of all important tables for GMs. I wanted to sell them to a few friends at cost, no profit. I received a short, curt reply stating, "Dear sir, in response to your question, no, you may not reprint anything. I don't know if this is going to become your standard policy. I don't know whether this is your blanket response to all inquiries. If it is, however, I would like to lodge a protest. Those with a background in many different fandoms have some knowledge of the results of a company oppressing an infant hobby with this type of policy." I'm sorry, I was lost in thought about something that happened a couple of months ago, but you guys would probably be bored if I launched into that. Let's see. Comic fandom, for instance, was stunted and nearly ruined by comics companies' refusal to allow amateurs to use pro characters in their fanzines. It's also interesting to note the route Star Trek fandom has gone with the allowance of Paramount of fan activity. Boy, that changed over the years, didn't it? Unicycle Peon, hello. I don't know Collecting Chaos. That's why it sounds so familiar to me. Anyway, I might also point out that an active and prosperous D&D fandom is as much, if not more, to your benefit than anyone else's. The existence of a hardcore group that buys all the D&D related products can only help your business. It therefore distresses me to see a restrictive policy adopted. If I and those like me were setting ourselves up in competition with already available TSR products, I might more readily understand your qualms. Unfortunately, real D&D fans are well aware that the supply of playing aids for TSR is sadly pitiful. The character archaic is unquestionably useless. No convenient complete set of tables exist. I therefore find it hard to swallow or understand your attitude. Not only would I not be competing with extant TSR product, I would not even be seeking or making a profit. I would only be trying to make the like of people who are already bought your products easier. And although I'm not a lawyer, I have some doubts of the legality of your preventing photocopying of your material in a different form for nonprofit purposes. I believe Congress has or is in the process of modifying copyright laws to take into account the Xerox revolution. I would not try to sell my tables over your objections on such grounds. However, since, despite my dissatisfaction with the stance, I still have great respect for your company. Everyone is grateful to Wizards of the Coast. I'm sorry. Did I slip up? Was that a little mistake on my part? Let me back up. Everyone is grateful to TSR for providing us with a useful, flexible, and fascinating fantasy game. But for God's sake, you're not providing effective products for enthusiasts of your games. It seems you are doing a disservice to your loyal customers by preventing others from providing these products as long as they're not trying to make a profit. Sincerely, Scott Rosenberg. That's gotta be the same guy. Collecting, that's gotta be the same guy. He sent a war game to them. What are the odds it's not him? Okay, and this comes right from Tim Kask. Sorry to distress you, Scott, but the no still stands and will do so until we have a few matters resolved. Right now, we have denied permission to everyone not licensed by us because it was the only way to sort out just what is going on. I agree that fandom is a good thing and would do nothing to stifle it, but we had to draw a line and now are faced with sorting out the mess. At such time that we have accomplished this, then we will be able to give permission where appropriate. At this time, our policy is no exceptions, draconian as that may seem. I don't know where you got your information regarding copyright law, but you have it just backwards. If we, publishers and printers, have our way, the new laws you speak of will clamp down on the rip-off revolution, as it should properly be known. I suggest you check out the Judges Guild appearing elsewhere in this issue. They seem to be quite competent. Ouch. Ouch. Harsh words from Tim Kask. So we're going to leave it there, guys. We're going to go ahead and just let the... Where is my mouse pointer? All this screen real estate. Yeah, we'll go ahead and leave it there tonight. We'll come back and we'll look at the rest of the issue. I don't know that we'll continue to go on without on a limb, but the next letter is actually by Lou Publisher, which is really cool. I honestly think that first that first letter writer is the same. Gary Spiegel that worked on Dragonlance. I would be shocked if it's not. He sent a game to TSR. I mean, this was a time when you could correspond with TSR back and forth. So Mike says, that's Tim. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So we'll get into that tomorrow night for a little bit. But then at 9 o'clock, we're going to play some classic Gamma World. I know you guys like the Let's Plays. They're usually fairly highly rated episodes, particularly of Gamma World. And hopefully Yang will be able to join us. He might be on the road, to which I say, get on Discord on your phone, prop it on the dash. You can't game and drive? No, don't game and drive, guys. Don't game and drive. But, that's a shame. That is a shame. It's like I was saying to my co-host Kyle last night in the break room after the show, as it were. You know, sometimes we just pretend like we don't know how the deck is stacked. Listen and drive is fine. Don't game and drive. Don't game and drive. But anyway, so yeah, tomorrow night we'll be back with some classic Gamma World. Next week, things are going to be kind of sketch because remember, Monday and Tuesday I'll be here, but Wednesday to the following Tuesday, I won't be here, but I will still be uploading content to YouTube, guys, because starting maybe with late Thursday, possibly early afternoon Thursday, but we'll see. I will be at GaryCon. That's right. I will be at GaryCon, and I'll be reporting in with short videos, medium length videos, just off the cuff stuff I take with my phone and whatnot. But until then, guys, please, everyone, have an absolutely wonderful evening. Drive safe. If you're driving, don't drive in game. And I'll see you tomorrow night. Thank you all for being here. Be exceptionally good to each other. And we'll circle back around. We'll come back and have a lot of fun. And again, if you're not subscribed, please do consider clicking that subscribe button. Click the bell icon for notifications. We're just over the wire, 4,303 subs on the channel, so that's kind of nice. I'm still hoping that we're going to get 5,000 subs by the time of the Great Underground Online Gaming Convention, because if we do, I will raffle off a set of premium color first edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Dungeon Master's Guide, Player's Handbook, and Monster Manual reprints. That's one prize. That's all one prize. And then the other prize will be a bespoke bound copy of original Dungeons & Dragons that I will have printed up and give away. If and only if we hit 5,000 subscribers by the time of the Great Underground Online Gaming Convention, a virtual con hosted by yours truly in June, probably second weekend in June. So tell your friends to subscribe. Tell your friends to subscribe. If you like classic Dungeons & Dragons, if you like hobby gaming news, if you like just hanging out and having a good time, subscribe to the channel. You guys be good to each other, and I'll see you next time. Peace. Have you seen my owl bear? Here's to all the weirdos everywhere in the woods and in the air. Have you seen my owl bear? Should I shave off all my hair? Bobs are all around. Some live in tunnels underground. Some are fat, some are rich, some are sleeping in a ditch. Can you ride a crooked horse without a saddle way off course? Naked as a toad, all the way to Smoky Joe's. Have you seen the little creep driving fast in his little green Jeep? He smells like fish and brandy, but his rotten teeth look dandy. Take me to the show, I don't care if fast or slow. From action flicks to dancing dicks, just take me to the show.